So in our series of talks with Vidal, called the Round Table, but Round Table Talks, in the last one I talked about the relationship between logic and emotion and how they're actually intertwined. And every emotional decision has a sort of logic to it. Every logical decision is grounded in emotion. But today we're going to be talking about vision, right? Vision. This is this word. You have to have a vision. And in today's time, we are in a generation of men that like meaning, right? Yeah. We get up day to day and feel empty, feel lost, feel purposeless, hate the job, not happy with the relationship, or you're lonely, you have no social circle, or the social circle you have is they're all right, right? I'd like better for myself, but you know, what can I do? Right? It is what it is. And so when they try to pair themselves with women, and we're in a generation of vision like women. Women by nature are more communal, meaning what women like will often be influenced by what other women like, right? So the clothing that's popular at that moment, that's why social media is so female dominant, except maybe YouTube. But even YouTube is not technically like a social media platform. It's not really, doesn't really operate like that. You can't message each other. There's a lot of differences between YouTube. YouTube's almost more like a broadcast network, almost, so than like Instagram and TikTok, and where there's immediate feedback and likes and comments, and it's just not quite the same. But tangent aside, on the ones that are more communal, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, if we look at the stats in terms of time spent, engagement, women have a lot more to gain from posting a ton, right? Because you guys have beauty and sex appeal, and social media platforms are visual inherently. Yeah. Right, other than maybe podcasts. I'd assume podcasts are probably more male dominated because there's no visual appeal. But the visual social media, the Pinterest, I'd venture to say they're likely heavily women skewed in terms of.
Actually, podcasts are becoming more women dominated because they've changed the podcast from just vocal to the visual. So it's a lot more. I feel a lot more.
What do you mean? In terms of the audio platforms?
Oh, you talking about just audio platforms?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about like people making podcasts. I'm talking about when like those who record, right? You could venture to say men have more to benefit from in a podcast form because all you're hearing is the voice and all you're hearing is the information. Whereas women have the beauty and radiance, which are pleasing to the male and female eye. So you'll see a lot of women have podcasts, not saying nothing, but because they're pretty, they have a viewer base. So that has value to it, right? And because of that, and because women tend to be more, again, I think they said with the when we're averaging women in anything, most of the women tend to be in the middle, right? Most women are what they call average. I heard this on a recent thing. And men tend to be extremes, right? Most men are really, really trash, or a few men. Like a few men are really like ass. Few men are really exceptional, and then it's kind of a more broadened curve than women who are more in the center, but very few extremes. So that being said, when we come back to vision and what's happening now, we're in a generation of guys that are visionless. They don't know what they want even 2 months from now, right. Much less in a lifetime or 3 to 5 years from now. And you have a lot of women who are filled with vision, partly because women are communal and they see other women on social media platforms that seemingly have vision, what they perceive as vision, traveling, boss up girl, whatever that looks like, status. And so women are like, oh, I need to be aiming at that.
Right.
Whereas the men are like, well, I'm not going to have a yacht. Right? That they're going to have a small percentage of guys who care about that and want that. But the bulk are like, I don't actually want that. Or they don't think they can get it. Whereas women are different. They kind of all assume they can get, which you see in the dating market. That's one of the things most of these angrier dating platforms tend to emphasize, which is the female tendency to assume that she's not the exception. Right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, we all want the same 6'2", whatever the thing, rich, blah, blah. And on the angrier platforms, they're, we stop calling them angrier, the misguided ones. They're like, you know how small of a percentage that is? And sure, rationally she knows that. But it's not that she doesn't know that, it's that she doesn't think she's the exception. Right? And so women don't do well with thinking for some reason another woman can get something she can't. Right? And so that's where the settling conversation comes from. So I don't want to settle. What she's saying is I don't want to take something that I don't want to accept a reality that's less than the other women's reality that I'm seeing. Right? So if my friend has this, and that, I want it too. I shouldn't have to not have it. And so you'll have droves of women who they might have one friend that is an excellent situation, and they're like, I don't want anything less than Rebecca's situation.
Right.
And so they all single because they all want a man like Rebecca's that does this, and that. And so guys are seeing that like, well, I'm cooked. Right? The social media is programming things and her friends are programming things.
Right.
And I am not a billionaire and blah, blah, blah. And so they start to think, oh, it's a money thing. I'm just not enough. I'm cooked. I'm not the top guy, whatever those indoctrinations come in. And so you have a bunch of guys who, without ever have putting in any effort, have already thought they won't ever amount to what women are requiring of men these days. So it's like, what's the point of trying? So they don't ever try, but in the trying, they start equating their own vision with the point of a vision is to get a woman.
Right.
And so
having a vision for themselves.
And so if I'm not going to get any women, or if there are no women in my life, what's the point? And so you have an influx of males who are visionless and an influx of women who are, we're going to say visionful. And so we have to also discuss like, what the hell is vision? What are we talking about here? Well, vision is just some preferred lifestyle, preferred way of living, preferred way of looking, preferred experience of life. And we're going to say that's about 3 to 5 years away. 3, 5, 10 years away. So when you think about the next 3 years, if I go, what's your vision for the next 3 years? And you're going, that means you're operating in a visionless way. That means that every day you just get up and you're like, we're going to see what today is.
Right.
But if you have no vision, you have no direction. And if you have no direction, then you're not leading anything. You're not leading yourself. The environment is leading you. And so you get up every day and go, I don't know where the environment's going to lead me today. And so now you're a puppet man. You're a puppet to your environment, and your environment is dictated by Lord knows who.
Right.
Right? And so you're a powerless man. But the powerful man is a sovereign man that governs his own actions. So in spite of the environment, I'm going to dictate my behaviors based upon my will as often as I can. And so the visionless man, if we break it down like that way, is a powerless man. And no woman wants to be with a powerless man. But guys may conflate power as money and status. But the ultimate power is the ability to determine your future. And your future is always determined by the actions and habits you practice right now. So if I'm going to I don't have to be a billionaire to get a six-pack. I don't have to have any genetic advantage. All I have to do is control my actions day to day. Am I eating a ton of calories, donuts, or not? Am I going for a walk or not? And so those little things on a day to day, even if it's the smallest thing, over 10 years will be drastically different trajectories, visions,
Right.
futures. But now we're in a space where men feel a victim to the environment. Is like, I can't dictate my future anymore. So what is the damn point?
Right.
I'm going to go play video games all day. I'm going to go watch porn all day. If a guy actually anticipated to have a reality where he was with the type of woman he desires, I guarantee he'd be investing a lot of his time in things that won't get him that reality. In distractions. We talked about this before, where it's like we use distractions as our suppressions. So if I'm feeling negative emotion, I'm going to distract myself with momentary pleasures. And so I'm going to go play a game, watch porn, drink, smoke weed. I wouldn't be doing that if I was blissful. It wouldn't be my priority. The reason I'm actively afraid of being by myself is because myself and pain have become the same thing. Mm. And so I'll do anything to get away from me, which is what a distraction means. So it's like, okay, if I spent time with me, then I'd have to realize the pain in the mirror.
Right.
And it's not pain in the mirror in the sense of settling for the man that you are. It's a pain in the mirror of going, I could have been more than I am right now.
Right.
And even in the moment that I'm looking at the mirror, I know I can be more than I am right now in 2 months. But if I accepted that, that means I'd have to make some changes right now. I'd have to stop doing some things. Right. There's some things I'm doing right now that are taking me down a path I don't want to go.
Right.
But it's going to be uncomfortable and painful to stop. And so when that's the reality, you're a visionless man, you're a directionless man that can't even lead himself, then why would a woman fall under your leadership? Why would a woman be submissive? Right? Because what a woman, when she's being submissive, right, the term that's so triggering, a woman who's being submissive is not technically submitting to the man in like some arbitrary sense. The man is submitted to the vision. So I say, okay, in the next 3 to 5 years, I'm building into and leading my life in this direction. Right. When that woman meets that man, she gets exposed to that man's vision because she's seeing his vision in his action. Mm-hmm. If he has a vision and his action doesn't match, he's visionless.
Right. And it's
so,
like, what am I submitting to at that point?
Right, because you're not giving me any example.
Yeah.
Right. The example you're giving me is taking me to turmoil in a worse reality than you have right now. Or if I follow you, the life I live will get worse. Mm-hmm. But a woman isn't looking for a man who's perfect, has everything, even though online, yes, some women are like just leeches and just want to take, and all they think about is taking. But most women are not like that. Most women are observing a man's trajectory, right? And so it's like, okay, if I follow this man, where am I going to end up?
Right.
Right. And so how does a woman determine a man's trajectory? Through his habits, through his actions, through his right now. So a man can have $10 million and is on a downward trajectory. And a man can have $2,000 on an upward trajectory. Mm-hmm. Earning $10,000 a week. And the guy has $10 million is losing $20,000 a day. At some point, these two will trade places.
Yep.
And so trajectory is the thing a man should focus on, not for the woman.
Right. Because
the vision is not for the woman. The woman aligns with the vision a man has. And then in that place is where she will trade the softer side of the journey where he's going to be initiating towards the vision. She's going to have to trade. Okay, he's going to go, I'm going to take on the responsibility. Right? And I'm also going to have authority over the vision.
Mm. Makes sense.
Right? He has to get both. Anybody who's going to lead is going to have the authority and the responsibility. Now, often a woman does not want responsibility for what we said earlier. With responsibility comes stress, pressure,
right,
consequences, work, activity, no flow. And so that's a lot to manage. And so often a woman desires a softer reality. But a woman must also understand that you can't have someone take responsibility for you and they have no authority over you. That's the typical work environment. If somebody's a manager, they have authority and they have responsibility. When problems come, we blame the manager, but the manager can't be taking all of the blame and have no say. Mm-hmm. So that's the trade-off. You get the positives and negatives. Right? And so if the man's dealing with the macro focus of the vision, then that woman can have the softer experience where the pressures and stresses are not always on her. Now, there are times that, and this doesn't even have to do with just, oh, well, he's paying everything or she's paying. That's not what this is about. We're talking about who's governing the day-to-day macro moves, right? When we have a risk to take, who's initiating that?
Right.
Who's figuring it out? And she supports in that if she wants the softer state. We talked about last time. If she does not want the softer state and she wants the harder state, because something soft must be surrounded by something hard. If she wants the pressure of the risks, then she either has to lead herself or she has to lead the man. But most women know they don't want to lead a man because then it's going to feel like they're a mother to a son. And that's not what you're looking for. It's like, well, I'll just lead myself. And that's why you'll have an influx of women that are single because they're looking for that man. But they can't find him, or they have found him but don't want to surrender authority. Right? And so that man goes, well, if you're not going to surrender authority, I'm not going to accept responsibility for all that comes with you.
Right.
But then the women are in a place where they're distrusting of the time they surrendered authority or they saw their mother surrender authority, and so they're like fearful.
Yeah,
and
like,
so
I don't want to do that again.
Exactly. And so we're in a chaotic environment where women want to not have the responsibility, but they don't want to give up the authority. And men are open to want the authority, but don't want to take on the responsibility. And so, because like, well, I've been burnt by taking on the responsibility of a woman before, and I don't want to be burnt like that again. Yeah. So, she used me, cheated on me, whatever. So it's like, this distrustful environment comes, and one of the consequences of that is men start to no longer have visions because they're like, well, I only need to keep it small because there's no woman involved anymore. Thinking that a vision
is solely
for a woman. Yeah. Not understanding that the impact a man has in his lifetime, right, on himself, well, on his immediate circle, on himself to a degree as well, and people as a whole has nothing to do with your woman. Right? The high value man, a concept that I remember I made a video way back, and it's always been so fascinating to me because I've looked online and I saw people confuse value with status. Where status is what you think of me, value is what I give to you. Status is what you think of me, value is what I give to you. I can have status or give the perception of somebody that's high status and give little to no value. Right? I can be a random guy that's funny on Twitter or just posts memes. The overall value is fairly low. But my status, if we're going to use followers within that environment, can be high. And then there can be somebody who gets a lot of value and has no status. Right? A teacher within an inner city community could have transformed hundreds of lives, the trajectory of hundreds of lives that will ripple into 100 years, and that teacher's value is so high, but he never got an award, right? So he delivered a lot of value, but didn't have much status. And so we've conflated status, or how much money I make, with how much value I offer.
Exactly.
And so people's filtering process starts to become status focused, and then they get someone who's also status focused, and they're both status focused people who offer no value to each other, or only focus on the social value they offer, not the relational value, not the value that's emotional, intellectual, or even physical. Right? So then you start to think, well, what is value? Value is anything you get that gives you a feeling you want. So if you do something for me, we always think like, how is certain things able to make money? Yeah, a Pokemon card can go for, I don't remember what the highest card is, like I think $1 million or a couple million, right? Like, it's a card. Why would anybody see value in that? Values anything I get that makes me feel how I want, feel good. So if I get that card, and to me getting that card will give me a feeling equivalent to $1 million or more, nobody else gets to determine that, right? And so value, if somebody's into golf, if somebody's into soccer, value is simply what I get that makes me get the feelings I want. So when you think of what's high value means, can somebody give me things that makes me have the emotions I desire? If somebody offers me things that gives me the emotions I desire, they're a high value person to me. Right?
And that has nothing to do with status.
There's nothing to do with status.
Yeah.
That has everything to do with the relationship and your value system. So, for example, if, let's say, a man, because again, they're describing as a high status, social status male.
Right.
And then they evaluate status based on income. But a man who's high value is subjective to the woman he's dealing with.
Right.
Because somebody can be high status and low value to the person they're dealing with. And if somebody can have no money and be higher value to that particular woman, or woman as a whole, than somebody who makes more money than him. That's why it's very common for guys to sleep with who have a lot of money, sleeps with girls that are with guys that have a lot of money. That's a very common thing, right? The pool boy example, amongst all the other ones that, frankly, guys don't know about, right? Women know. They know the friends they have that's with the dude for the cash, but are messing with that ex that got nothing going on, and go, well, why is that? That's because the most important thing to a woman is the presence, how she feels in a man's presence. We talked about that before. Not his possession and position. But she will use a man for his possession and position. She will fuck with a dude for his possession and position, but it's never going to be the most important thing to her, right? Because if she's like, I'm not ever really feeling excited being around this man, when she's around a man that she feels excited about, that's going to be very difficult for her to ignore.
Right.
And she's going to crave him. Right. And that's going to go into a whole nother topic we'll discuss for another video. But the visionless man has to understand that the value he brings comes through his social value, right? What kind of resources, what kind of, put it like this, how am I benefiting other people in a way that, how would I describe this one? Am I benefiting people in a way that I was going to use the word is public, because really how it really breaks down is external and internal. Like, I can benefit someone externally and I can benefit someone internally.
Right.
So that's the real delineation. I was going to use social, but let's use internal and external. I can benefit you. I can add value to your life internally, which is to change, to add new thoughts to you, right? Implant knowledge in your mind that shifts your perspective, and gives you access to things you never had access to before. Somebody listening to this video and taking in this information and going, oh, that gave me insight. What I did was add value to you intellectually.
Right.
And so intellectually, you got knowledge and truth that you didn't have prior, which changed the lens that you see the world through. So things that you thought weren't available are now available to you because of what you know.
Right.
Because
what you know gives you access.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
And what stops us from getting access to the things we desire is what we don't know.
Exactly.
Right? We don't know what we can't do.
Mm.
So if now I oh shit, bro just gave me some information I didn't have before. Now I see the world differently than I did before. Mm-hmm. Now I can go down pathways I didn't see before.
Right.
Oh shit, bet knowledge is power. Right? So I can change internally, mentally. I can also change you internally, emotionally. So I might not give you any new knowledge, right? But I can offer some kind words or a moment of support, and that's valuable because now you felt like, man, I was in this alone, and I go, hey, bro, you know, I see great things for you. I've been observing you, or as a woman, like, you're beautiful, da da da. And that shifts her emotionally or shifts him emotionally. And that's an internal aspect of value. You have the mind and the heart. Mm-hmm. And then I can shift things and add value to you externally. That may look like resources, right? That may look like a physical helping hand, me doing something for you, right? And so those are different forms of value that exist. And so if a man is delivering a lot of that in any capacity, he is high value to the person who's getting the value.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Not just high value because you have money or you have this. It's what you're giving people internal. Like what?
Yeah. That's all value is, because if I have a lot of money and you can't benefit from it, I'm not high value to you.
Right.
How's that benefiting your life?
Exactly.
The only reason most people go around people with a lot of money is because of what they think they can learn from them or how they think they can benefit from their money.
Exactly.
So it's the value they think they might get if they become that person's friend. Mm-hmm. The information or money they think they can get if they become close to them. Right. So the gravitation people have to high status is the value they think they can extract from that person. Mm-hmm. And it's not like some malicious thing, but we don't conflate status and value. Status, again, is what you think of me. Where do I rank on the totem pole? Within the context of, whatever environment. It could be within a country, it could be within a school, it could be within a fraternity, it could be within a sorority. Where am I perceived in the hierarchy? That's status. Mm-hmm. Value is, how do I benefit other people? And so if I'm benefiting millions of people on planet Earth, I am by definition high value. Right. But I'm not always high status. It depends on the situation. And so when a man crafts his vision, he must understand that it's about the value he's going to give to himself and the value that he's going to impart on other people.
Right.
That's how you mold your vision. So it's like, okay, I can understand why I craft a vision in terms of benefiting myself, but why would I care to benefit other people? Why would I put that in it? And the reason for this is a word called fulfillment, an emotion called fulfillment.
My favorite word.
Mm-hmm. Right, something you've been tapping into heavily recently.
Yeah.
Right. The thing about consumption, meaning if I perceive a future where the only thing I'm thinking about is what I'll get, what I can eat, what I can put into me, pause, right? There's... I had to pause that. Then you're only focused on short-term pleasure.
Right.
And we've all experienced something where it's like, man, when I have sex with this woman, man, when I, get this food, when I go experience this thing, and what happens? It comes and it goes, and you need another thing. You need another hit of this. You need another thing of that. It never lasts. And if you get enough money and you experience all there is to experience, you eventually get to the place where everything you could experience bores you. consumption has a limit to how much you can get out of it.
Right.
Eventually it'll cap out and you start doing all kinds of weird stuff. Shouts to Diddy, right? And
Okay.
you're doing all kinds of weird stuff because you need a new high. Right? Now it's Coke. Now it's like, because the stimulation you got from consumption, all the normal stuff you done maxed out on it.
Right.
Right? That's the guy that, I used to watch normal porn. Now it's wherever that shit is gone.
Yeah.
Right? Because the stimulation you got from that, you watch it every day, it doesn't hit the same. The dopamine hits are just not what they used to be. However, fulfillment is something that's far deeper, far more powerful, and far more lasting. And the only place fulfillment can come from is the positive contribution of someone else into someone else's life.
Yeah.
In a way that you care about, right? Because you can benefit somebody. You're at a job you hate. You may benefit a lot of people, but you don't care deeply about the way you benefit them.
Right.
So you could be a doctor and you save lives all the time. Yes, but my passion, and it's where alignment with purpose and passion come. What I care about is helping people with their health in terms of physical fitness. And so a doctor may be saving lives in terms of being a surgeon, for example, but it would be more in alignment for him to be a personal trainer, even if he makes less money,
Right.
because he's more fulfilled doing that. Right? Even though he's adding value in both cases.
Right.
Right? And so it would be better for him to, from a long-term perspective, because when you're unfulfilled, it's very difficult to be motivated and feel lustful about the future. Well, not lustful, but lively and excited about the future. Fulfillment is what pulls us into the future. What happens when you run out of pleasures? Now you're like, I need to think of a new pleasure to motivate me, and then it gets really, really odd what you have to come up with to push you into the future.
Yeah.
But there's never a limit to the amount of people you can contribute to.
Exactly.
And fulfillment has no bottom. And so when you're thinking about a vision for the future, it's really critical that you have a component of your vision that's, if not maybe the entire thing, well, not, you still want to benefit yourself. So there's some payoff, but a solid chunk, at least 50% of it is, how am I going to benefit the people that I care about?
Right.
Whether that be your mother, whether it be your father, whether it be your siblings, whether that be your best friends. How am I going to positively impact those that I care about? Because if that's not in there, one, when times get hard, you're probably going to fold and go back to the life you despise. But secondly, when you get there and you experience all the pleasures, you'll feel like you failed after a while because, dang, I did all that just to get here. I got all that just to get here, and I'm still miserable. And so how likely do you think it's going to be that you're going to pursue another major goal? It's going to be very difficult because you're like, I have it all. I got all the pleasures that I could consume, yet I'm still empty.
Yeah.
And that's why it's called fulfillment, because it fills the emptiness within you. Right? It's what you're here in this time, in this season to do on this planet. And it's this sense of alignment where it's like, man, the reason I was born, I can't explain it, but this feels like why I'm here on earth. And
that's beautiful. That's a beautiful feeling. It's like, so this is what I was meant to do. You might have misconceptions in the past of what you thought it was and da-da-da-da. But it's a truly different feeling when you really found the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why it can't be true. There are people on the internet that says passion is created or your purpose is, you just decided. That's not true for a lot of reasons. For one, we don't dictate what gives us positive emotions. Meaning, let's take a simple example like food. We don't dictate what foods we enjoy.
Yeah.
We try them and then we either like them or we don't like them. We don't decide that. We can't arbitrarily decide to like a food. We can't arbitrarily decide to like a person. Right? If we're in alignment, we're in alignment. We can't just, I'm going to decide that I'm going to like you. Right? You don't. You don't get to decide that.
Yeah.
And similarly, I don't know why we somehow arbitrarily get to decide what fulfills us and what lights us up with passion. You can get very good at something, and you don't want to conflate getting good at something and getting feedback from the environment and people going, you're so good at this, as the same thing as fulfillment. No, you're getting approval.
Yeah.
Right? And so now you're working for the approval of others, which makes you a puppet once again.
Right.
But fulfillment is a type of contribution that you do where you're giving, you're sharing, you're contributing to your community, to the planet in a way that you're seeing tangible benefit from and justifies your existence. Right? And that right there, what does that for you is the journey of life. But we have to go outside of our comfort zones. We have to go into the wilderness, as we've talked about before. And the answer to that is not something you arbitrarily decide.
Right.
It's something you do find. Right? And I could go way deeper. I may do a deeper conversation on that. But in the same way we find ourselves, remember that one time we were high and we were like, life is a game of hide and seek.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We go around and we have this emotional craving. We know we want satisfied. Like, I know I want to feel the joy of a happy, healthy, amazing relationship. You know you have the lack and the craving for the thing, but you don't know how it's going to be satisfied.
Exactly.
You don't know who it's going to be. You don't know how you're going to meet them. You don't know what they're going to look like. Hide and seek.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, oh, I'm hungry. And you go, what am I in the mood for? If we just arbitrarily decided, then how could we ask ourselves, what are we in the mood for?
Right.
That means you're partly not deciding what you're in the mood for.
Right. You pinging for
Hide and seek.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what am I in the mood to? Oh, I'm not in the mood to watch that. Again, we can have a whole other complicated conversation on how that works.
Right.
But we don't realize how much of our choices are motivated by something other than our conscious will. Right. That said, for a man who is moving through the world, next 2 years, don't know. Next 3 years, don't know. Next 5 years, don't know. Understand that if you're visionless and you want a partnership and you want to lead a family, you're not going to get the fullest experience of that woman's softness, that feminine side, that ultra, oh my goodness, daddy, you're the man. You're never going to experience that as a visionless male. Right? Your vision doesn't have to be fly to Mars. Right? What matters to you? What if you could have it your way in 3 to 5 years? What would life look like?
What's that question you be asking? Like, oh, if you already had the money, like, what would you be doing?
Yeah, that's a hint. If you had all the money, well, not all the money in the world, but let's say you have a quantifiable number. If you have $20 billion, right, and nobody would know you're doing it, or you wouldn't get any social approval, what would you want to do with your time? Right. That's a clue. Because most times people do stuff for money and for approval. Yeah. When you take those off the table,
then what's left?
You're like, what would I do if it wasn't about, nobody would know about it. And it wouldn't be for money. You start to get a glimpse of what you call your passion. And you get a glimpse of how you truly want to contribute. The positive change you truly want to see in the world. And when you tap into that and venture into the unknown regarding that, little by little, step by step, you start to uncover your vision. But just like driving through a dark night, you can only see a couple feet ahead. So you're never going to see the fullness of the vision. You may get a glimpse. Right. But as you're walking, you're moving, you're like, oh, dang, I thought 20 miles from now it would look like this, and it looks like this. It's like, oh, I thought it would look like this, but it looks like this. But in order to lead a family, in order to have your girlfriend, wife, whoever, in that softer, trusting, respecting, at ease state, you don't have to perfectly know everything. But you have to communicate where you guys are going. And then most importantly, it has to be mirrored in your action. It has to be mirrored in your action. Right? That's what I meant when I'm saying that women only listen to action. It's the only language they know. You got to understand, guys, and I responded to a recent comment like this. A guy said, why do you make women sound so infantile? It's not about infantile like they can't do anything for themselves. A woman cannot be in the E state if she's taking on all the load. This is, even if you switch it around to the man and woman, if the man is in the E state and most of the time, then he is not, put it like that, if a woman is in the state of leadership most of the time, then she can't go in the E state, because if she does, everything crumbles. And it doesn't mean that a man must always be in some kind of going at it state. It's going to be balanced. That's partly what the woman is there for. Okay. All right. The macro stuff, being handled, the micro stuff, right? I'm making sure that the connection between us is nourished. And it's that reciprocation we've described. And she's adding value to reinvigorate the man, right? Because most of the time, a guy doesn't feel like he's full of self being his woman's son, more or less, right? If most men could have it their way, if not all of them, they're like, I prefer to be sovereign. But no, it's just critical to make sure that you have a general direction that you're moving towards, because otherwise you're going to be stagnant and the years are going to flow by, and before you know it, there goes your youth. There goes your youth. 5 years like that. Nothing has changed. No skills developed.
Right.
No value added. It's as if you never existed. All you do with the bulk of your time is consume in weed, porn, game. Right. If you're going to do that, then be intentional about it. In 5 years, I'm going to still be playing weed, porn, and game. I'm going to be in the same position I'm in. Then that's a vision. Nobody's here to judge the vision, but establish it. But if you have resistance around admitting that, that means that's not the vision you want for the next 3 to 5 years. But the problem is that being visionless isn't going to get you where you want to. That's like steering a ship with no captain. You're going to end up on the shore, shipwrecked. And the truth is, as a man, no one's coming to save you when you're shipwrecked, especially the older you get. And so if we can do something about it now, encourage my guys, like, don't move like the visionless man. Even if it's a small step in the direction. Sit down and write. If I could have it my way in the next 5 years, what would I want? Do I want to still be alone? If you don't want to still be alone, stop doing things that keep you alone, right? If I want to be, well, the dude gets up every day, does the same thing, doesn't talk to anybody, and somehow in 5 years, well, you're on track to stay alone currently based upon your actions day to day, week to week, month to month. I want to earn more money. Well, what are your actions day to day, week to week, month to month? Well, I want to have a better body. What are your actions day to day, week to week, month to month?
Right.
So, a lot of reasons why the visionless man is the common man today. A lot of it not their faults, but their responsibility. Mm-hmm. And if there's only one guy today that hears this, I needed to hear this, that will like, dang, I need to establish some direction in my life,
Right.
then it would have been worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that most people will, one, have not made it this far, two, will go, oh, dang, that's real. and then go back and waste the rest of their lives. And I think statistically it's always been that way. I don't know why that is. I don't know why there's a bell curve, if that's a law of nature. But there is, and so, as I used to say in the beginning of this channel, I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. I just want to make them aware of that there's a different path. And if they choose to remain on the path they are on, then it's like, bet. But I did my part in adding insight that made you aware, because I'd have hated to see somebody sell for a life they could have lived differently, because I didn't do my part and share the information.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're sovereign. You're a sovereign man, whether you know it or not. And so, yeah, with love, I'll leave you all there. And I'll see you in the next rant.